Welcome back to the Expat Files. Tane Nix here. You might be asking why I'm wearing this outrageous getup. Just set out from Naguabo in Puerto Rico. I've never launched off that boat ramp before. It was a bit harrowing. It's a story for another video. I believe this is Vieques off in the distance. I don't quite have my bearings yet. That should be, no, I guess that is Vieques, which means I need to change tack here. Okay, we just came from the land of windmills and wasted money. A really beautiful sail today. It's fun going fast in this trimaran, this little 17-foot vessel I have. But it's also really pleasant when the wind is kind of gentle and the seas are gentle and everything's calm and pleasant. And so that is what we will be enjoying today. And they ask me why I live in Puerto Rico. We're headed to Vieques. We're going to camp out tonight, try to circumnavigate the island, because why not? It's there, might as well do it. And be back in the morning and then wrestle the boat back onto the trailer. But in the meantime, let's see if any profound thoughts come to me, as often happens in the middle of the ocean. And I will share with you a retrospective of my time in Puerto Rico as it starts to wind to a close. I'll be back with more good stuff once I change course here. Beautiful day. Lovely. All right. Well, it damn sure wasn't an easy sail. It was upwind the entire way, which is never fun, but that's why we have this guy. Hello. 2.5 horsepower is more than enough for this boat. We'll get into the wind here as soon as we get a little further from land. This is beautiful Vieques. I think the only thing it's famous for is it was a gunnery range for the U.S. Navy, to the total chagrin, as you might imagine, of the local inhabitants. So there's places on the island where you would be wise not to go hiking since there's unexploded ordnance still, so the authorities tell us. But we're going to head to the south side and look for a good place to pull in for the evening. I know that coast of this island, and there's just tons and tons of good little campsites where I can pull a boat up right on the beach. So that's where we'll stay the night. Stunning. We came from over there. Can't see it on this, I'm sure, but there's windmills where the windmills are. That's where we're heading back to tomorrow, Naguabo. Stunning, beautiful. Water, Caribbean, hip hip hooray. What a fantastic spot to be shipwrecked. Well, I say that tongue in cheek, but let's not get shipwrecked, shall we? In any case, here comes the wind. We are going to sail with the main and the jib all the way out. See how she wants to go here. If you get a chance, this vessel is called a Wind Rider 17. If you get a chance to pick one up, you get it. They're not making them anymore, and it's not easy to get replacement parts, but where there's a will, it can be done. And a better vessel to run around and day sail was never created. This was designed by an old friend, actually, a gentleman that I met years ago, Jim Brown. Not sure if Jim is still with us. He's got to be in his 90s at this point. His eyesight was terrible even when I met him, and had to be driven around by his wife. But he is in the multi-hull world, Jim is a patron saint, at least, if not a god, for the designs that he created for regular guys to go build boats in their backyard and sail them around the world. And his most famous customer and good friend was a man I knew in San Marcos named Mark Hassel, who passed away some time ago, but just had an extraordinary, extraordinary life, sailing handmade boats that he built himself around the world, not once but twice. Sailing once around the world isn't enough. So in any case, we do homage to Jim and to Mark, Hat tip to you guys. And once I find my campsite, we will have today's daily sermon. Back with more good stuff. Good morning. Sunday, August 30th. For anybody who cares. Fairly sleepless night, but I expected that. It didn't cool off till about midnight here on the south shore of Vieques. I don't have anything more to say right now. Just sort of taking it all in one last time. For years, I vagabonded through the world and woke up like this, enjoying myself and the freedom that being homeless provides you. But such experiments have their limitations. And then there's age. I guess the proper term is aging. Was visited all night by strange animals, including a giant crab that practically pinched my tuchus. As I was slung down in the hammock, turned the light on, cast it outside, and he put up his claws to defend himself. Kept waiting for the pinch to come, but it didn't. Beautiful day. We like the clouds. God knows I got enough sun yesterday for a lifetime. So we'll get packed up and hit the road, and I'll have more to say. Marvelous what the sea does to your mind. Marvelous what sleeping outside helps you remember. If you think offshore structures like where to bank, how to invest in foreign real estate, and where to set up your foreign trust are difficult or complicated, they're not. That's not the hard part of creating an international lifestyle. The hardest part is the decision to go. That's why I wrote Secrets of the Expat Adventure, to share with you a deeply personal view of what happens when you decide to cast off the chains of a normal life full of predictable outcomes. I don't want to spoil the ending for you, but you quickly discover yourself living your best life, the life you were meant to live, instead of the one you're stuck with. Across 156 pages, I'll share the incredible adventure I've enjoyed because of my decision to leave my old life behind and create an international lifestyle. I lay out for you the consequences of remaining in a life or location where everything is familiar, contrasting that with the almost magical growth and gain that is possible once you decide to take the path of adventure. There's something deeply mysterious about choosing an adventurous life. Once you commit, helpers appear, and events seem to unfold in an almost magically choreographed manner. You find yourself learning, living, and loving your life in a way that you thought you'd lost forever. There is no financial gain that compares with the recovery of the best parts of yourself. Fortunately, the decision to internationalize is also a great way to get wealthy. I give you real examples of how much easier it was for me to find and profit from the real estate and other investment opportunities I came across simply by choosing to play on the very uneven playing field of developing markets. If you're worried about what's happening in your home country and you're on the fence about whether or not you should create your own plan B, Secrets of the Expat Adventure will give you clarity and inspiration to choose your own path of freedom and adventure. I promise you'll never look at your life the same way again once you discover what an international lifestyle can do for you, your family, and your wealth. To get your copy, click the link below this video. Vieques. Hello, boys. What are you doing? Hello. Nice to see you, my friend, with your big nuts. Hello. Wild horses on Vieques. They get to do as they damn well please. It's quite unique. I'm happy they didn't come last night. Magic. Face suggested the features of a soldier executioner down. A mother lying on the ground was repeated to infinity. Cursed. Always seems fitting to film yourself leaving harbor. Let's see what the day's run brings. That's Sun Bay on the south shore. Not a lot of wind this morning, but that's okay, it's coming. And we will be heading back to the west to get back to Puerto Rico very shortly. Let's see how much exploring we can do before we gotta come about. Away we go. I hope you'll excuse the backlighting. I have to sail this direction and there's nothing for it, but I wanted to record this. I started this channel because I wanted to capture some of the flavor of the adventures I get to have. Here I am on the south coast of Vieques. Just magical. There's a little cut here that takes you into a very shallow area, but there's no place to camp. And then there's a big Sun Bay where boats come in and beachgoers beach go. And I started this channel also to share with people the important lessons that I've learned on internationalizing. The easy part of internationalizing is setting up offshore structures and bank accounts. I know there's people who have YouTube channels that make a huge fortune selling those kind of services, but I'm telling you the truth, it is not difficult to do that stuff. Yes, you want some qualified professionals. The offshoring game is a game, and all countries are constantly tinkering with their laws and their rules and what reports you got to file and how you got to stay legal. It's a way to squeeze money, but the small amount of time and cost and aggravation that it takes to create the kind of structures that are going to see you through a chaotic period like we are now entering, like we entered in 2020, if you've been paying attention. There are serious questions that have to be worked out, and so I don't see solutions on the horizon in the near future. And we'll hope that everybody remains peaceful, and for the most part, right, the actual blood spilling is kept to a minimum. But governments are desperate, and so you need this kind of information. You need to take seriously, even though it's easy, even though it's simple. If you got the right people to help you, it's very doable. There's nothing difficult about offshoring. And so if you're interested in that, I do offer that service as well. I teamed up with an excellent legal firm. There's a link below. You can set up a free 15-minute phone call, and we'll see if we're a fit. Okay, tell me about your situation. I'm happy to talk to you about it and introduce you to some friends of mine if that makes sense for you. But the bigger reason that I created this channel was because I also wanted to document what it is to live your best life. I've had an extraordinary life in the last 27 years since I left my home country and went out on the adventure of my life. Why am I telling you that? Because good friends of mine, people I know, people I admire, recently put out a book, and the theme of the book, the purpose of the book, is to teach young men how to make the most of their lives. The book is valuable to me. I have a copy, I'm reading it, but I already know that it's an excellent piece of work. If you have a young man in your life, get it. Even if you don't, get it, right? Because somebody you know is going to benefit from this. There's no doubt it's destined to be a classic. But the book did something for me, or meant something to me, the moment that I got into it and as I started to actually read it. Interesting thoughts occurred to me because, in effect, oh, there's a big turtle. Oh goodness, you won't be able to see him. There he is. There's leatherback turtles out here. I can't show him to you, he's too far away. You're not gonna pick him up on the camera. And they dive very quickly, so you gotta glimpse them. You get a quick glimpse. But in any case, one of the authors is doing the rounds on podcasts, and he made the point that young men need a firm challenge. Like, you need a mountain to climb. Like, you need to set your sights on something worthwhile, like conquering Persia, for example. And what I didn't know until now that the book is now already striking a chord with the people who might be interested in it. I've read some of the reviews. Obviously, I'm getting the scuttle on it. What I didn't fully understand was that, and what made my journey different, I think, and this is unabashedly immodest, but what made my journey so different was that for years and years, 2.5 decades plus, I just plowed away, tending my own affairs and building the skills that the authors of this book recommend that young men go out and get for themselves, and they give you a plan for how to do that. And I don't think it ever fully occurred to me that my own mentality, to me that was obvious. Like, to me it was obvious that you have to go set your sights on something outrageous. And the reason I'm commenting on this is the effeminizing of all things Western. This is an unusual video. This is a departure from our normal thing, but bear with me. A day and a half at sea tends to dredge up thoughts that have been rattling around. The effeminizing of all things Western is obvious. It has gone on to include, the terrible deficit of adventure in young men, the terrible deficit of an adventurous spirit and soul that says, obviously we're gonna go conquer Persia. What the fuck else should we do? I mean, we're here, we might as well win. And that was my attitude from long before my adult years, really. And I was very fortunate. A lot of that came from sports. I was a mediocre talent, but I got to play with guys who were really superb and professionals, and guys who went on to play in Europe, high level, just excellent experience for me. And so not everybody gets that, but by the time I was in my early 20s, I knew for sure that there was no way, if I had to live in a car, I lived in a car for 3 years plus, more really, because I traveled back and forth. I lived on the streets of San Francisco for just under 3 years. I built a boat. I lived aboard a boat. I crossed the ocean about, I don't know, a dozen times, 15 times. I learned languages. I speak Spanish well enough that when I'm in Argentina, I sound like an Argentine. When I'm in Puerto Rico, I sound like a Boricua. And when I'm in Mexico, I sound like a Mexican. And when I'm in Guatemala, I sound like a Chapin. What I'm saying here is, it never occurred to me that you don't do that. And now, people are writing books to try to encourage young men to go have the adventure of their lives. Well, that's partly what I do here, which is there's crossover there, right? I'm not necessarily talking to young men on this channel, but this applies to everybody. There's no reason for you not to have the best version of your life you can have, and a lot of that does entail going on an adventure. And you can have the adventure of your life. It's not as dangerous as you think. It's not as expensive as you think. I never had any money until I was 49 years old. And so, 46 years old. No, 47 years old. Close enough. I never chased wealth because I was too busy building skills and having an adventure. And yes, it took planning and it took guts. But the first lesson, and the thing that hit me like a fist, cracking this book open and hearing some of the podcasts that my colleague, gentleman that I know, who I admire very much, for what he's done with his life, talking about the creation of this book, that young men have to be told that it's okay to go on an adventure. An oddball, because I wasn't gonna let anything dissuade me from having that adventure. And so I have a lot to say on this topic, and I will say more about it in future videos. But the book is called The Preparation. It's available on Amazon. Get the hardback version, it's great. They went to the trouble to make a real collector's edition. They'll set you back a C note, but it's worth it, especially if you have a young man in your life. And then, hopefully he and you will be inspired to go on the adventure of your life. If I can help you with that, please contact me at the link below. And if you enjoy the videos and enjoy the channel, or if you think this video was valuable in any way, by all means, send it to somebody you know. Send it to somebody you care about who could benefit from its message. And if you hit the subscribe button, I'm told that helps us in the world of Google algorithms. Thanks very much. I'll be back with more great stuff. I have about 6 hours of sailing ahead of me. Remember, your freedom begins when you understand that nobody's coming to save you.